I'm the military commander, and I think we must demonstrate the capability to counter any threat, to give the Koreas a chance to talk to each other.
Good evening and welcome to Newsmaker. Our guest is the Commander-in-Chief, United Nations Command, U.S. Forces Korea, 8th United States Army, General William J. Livsey. Panelists on tonight's program are Air Force Sergeant Ray Adame of KORUS Magazine, Mr. Mike Mooney, Korea Bureau Chief for Pacific Stars and Stripes, and Specialist Christopher Wheelock of AFKN News.
Good evening. Our guest tonight is certainly no stranger to the Republic of Korea. He was first assigned here during the Korean War, where he served as a platoon leader, executive company commander, and company commander. He was later reassigned to the Republic of Korea back in the 1970s, where he served as Chief of Staff for I Corps. Before we get started with our line of questioning tonight, General Livsey, we'd like to thank you for taking the time to join us this evening.
Specialist Wheelock, I'm delighted to be here to talk to you fellas. I watch you interview all these visitors that come to see us here, and I'm glad we finally got around to talking to me.
Yes, sir,
I've got a lot of things I'd like to talk to you all about. One of the things I guess I should tell you beforehand, I'll try to answer every question that you ask me as honestly as I can, but I want you, and particularly the people that may be listening to this program, to bear with me. If I stray, it's just because one thought triggers another. So I'll try to answer your question, but I may add a little to it. I hope that's okay.
Yes, sir, that's fine. And we'd like to get started now with our first
Sure.
line of questioning. Sir, we hear a lot about the strategic importance of Northeast Asia and the Korean Peninsula in particular. U.S. forces have been stationed here continuously since the Korean War, almost 35 years ago now. Why is it important to keep U.S. forces here in the Republic of Korea?
The short answer to that is for peace and stability in the world. Of course, I think you and everyone else knows that the United States has a lot of economic interest in the Pacific area and so forth. But most importantly, the Korean people here in the Republic of Korea, they've been staunch allies of ours now for a long time. They have ridden to the sound of the guns with us. We're here because we support our allies. We're here because we want to keep peace. That's basically the answer to that question.
Okay. The North Korean regime of Kim Il-sung and soon Kim Jong-il poses the primary threat to the Republic of Korea. How do you assess the North Korean threat?
Good question. That threat's formidable. There's no question about that. If you look at sheer numbers, you'll see that the North Koreans have a sort of outgunned, outmanned in numbers, personnel, tanks, ships, those kind of things. Also, they have redeployed, moved closer to the DMZ, mechanized their forces, organized new mechanized corps, and improved in most every way their combat capability. So it's a formidable fighting force that they put together. I'm sure we'll get around to talking about how I look at that in relation to our own forces. But direct answer to that, yeah, it's a serious threat.
Okay, sir. The next line of questioning will come from Mr. Mike Mooney from the Pacific Stars and Stripes.
Good evening, sir.
Mike.
For the past 10 years, the biggest exercise in Korea has been Team Spirit. And next month, we start our deployment phase of Team Spirit 85. You were Chief of Staff at I Corps for the first two Team Spirits. And what I'd like you to do now, if you can, is contrast the two that you were here for before with what we're going to see this year. And if you could, explain a little bit, what is the purpose of Team Spirit?
That's very interesting. Thinking back to '76 when we first started the Team Spirit series, most of that early Team Spirit stuff was mainly an Air Force exercise. We played some of the Army headquarters just to exercise the Air Forces. Now it's a full-blown combined arms, combined forces kind of exercise. Purpose of that is to demonstrate our capability to defend this republic. You will hear me say time and time again in this program we're talking about our sincere desire for peace here. I'm the military commander, and I think we must demonstrate capability to counter any threat, to give the Koreas a chance to talk to each other. I'm so much in favor of that North-South dialogue and tension reduction. But we got to demonstrate that we have the capability, that we're not going to have any kind of intimidation from the North. So what we're doing is a defensive exercise. That's what it's designed to be. It's designed, Mike, to show that the United States, in support of its allies, can bring forces here, again, for peace and stability. But most of all, it's a good military exercise, defensive in nature, to demonstrate that we can do whatever job we're asked to do here. It's one of the best exercises, I think, that's run anywhere in the world. I'm very pleased with what we're doing with Team Spirit this year.
On another subject, sir, recent emphasis in U.S. Forces Korea has been placed on the organizational and force modernizations. What are the primary thrust of the gains that we made in the past year, and what can we look forward to in the coming year?
Well, I'd say in general terms, throughout the U.S. forces everywhere, except for the period maybe 1939 to 1943, we have force modernized at a very rapid pace. And, well, we should have. We were behind. Still behind in many ways vis-a-vis Soviets. So in the years 82, 86, 87, you're going to continue to see force modernization. What it means to us here, the M60A3 tank, now present in the 2nd U.S. Infantry Division, the Black Hawk helicopter, that I think is one of the best helicopters in the world, is here now. There's just numerous systems. If I listed them for you, you'd see that it goes electronic kind of devices, things like that. So, yes, we've spent a lot of money on modernization. We needed it. But the good news is that our service people, and I'll be talking about soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marine. Sometimes if I use the word soldiers, that's just a generic term. But those young Americans can handle that equipment. I'm convinced of that. And when you talk modernization, people get worried about the technology and so forth. Don't worry about that. They're doing an excellent job with it. I'm very pleased with it.
The next line of questioning, sir, will come from Staff Sergeant Ray Adame from KORUS Magazine.
Yeah, he and I have talked before. I enjoy talking to you, Sergeant Adame.
Hello, sir. Sir, the bottom line is readiness. How do you assess the readiness of Combined Forces Command? And what about USFK as the U.S. element in CFC?
That's a good question. Two good questions. First of all, let me say this about readiness. We're ready. I guarantee you that. We need to improve, and I go out, you say, how do you assess it? There's a formal system for that. You know, we always got these reports that come up to the top, and I get a monthly briefing on all this stuff. But the way you really assess it is you go out and look. You go out and watch the exercises. You go out into the motor pools or to the air bases, and you talk to the people that are working with the equipment. I guess my best assessment of readiness is talking to the people themselves to see if they got confidence that they can do what they're supposed to do in war. And that means more than figures. But so I assess our readiness in all those kind of ways, and we are, in fact, ready. Now, as to the U.S. Forces Korea part of that, that's a good question. U.S. Forces Korea is a very vital part of the defense of this peninsula, but we in the American Armed Forces should realize that we're just sort of a small part when you look at the overall combined forces here in the Republic of Korea. Remember that one of my jobs is Commander-in-Chief Combined Forces Command. And in that light, I look at the readiness of the ROC Army, Air Force, Navy, just like we do the U.S. Forces. I go see them. Remember that they got 30-odd divisions. We got one, see? But that's a very important one. And it not only does it show our commitment, but the 2nd Division is a very powerful fighting force. I'm very proud, by the way, of, don't like to call names because I can't mention everybody's name, but General Hank Doctor, and all his people up in the 2nd Division doing a good job. Just likewise, 314th Air Division, General Buck Rogers, all those guys. I think that's one of the great edges that we had. You know, we talked about, you asked about the threat.
Yes, sir.
One of the great edges we have, and you in your blue uniform ought to be proud to hear me say this, is our air power. We have technically superior kind of airframes. We got better trained pilots. I'm very pleased, both on the ROCAF side and the U.S. side, with our air power.
Sir, on a different subject, although you arrived in Korea last June, it is not your first time in the Republic. What impresses you the most about Korea and its people?
Well, I guess, Sergeant Adame, the thing I like most about them is two things. Their national pride. They're proud people. I like that. And then the fact that they smile kind of easy. And, you know, they really, and I like to be with them. The country is a beautiful country. And from the devastation that I remember when I left here on the 29th of July, 1953, that was 2 days after the war was over. This was just a leveled place. There was practically no trees left. And then you see what's happened in those 30-plus years, and it makes you very proud of what the people of the Republic of Korea has done.
While we're reminiscing, sir, you're a former commander, infantry commander in both Korean and Vietnam Wars.
Yeah.
Soldiers then frequently didn't want to be soldiers. They were there because of the draft. Today, however, the Army is a fully volunteer proposition. Twofold question. Do you think today's soldier is ready for combat? And what are the differences between the soldier of that era, those two eras, and the soldier of today?
That question kind of causes me a little bit of ambivalence in trying to answer it, because those soldiers that I remember so very, very well from the Korean War and Vietnam War, they were magnificent. Oh, I know there were some people that had some doubts, and there was a lot of things in the press sometimes, but they never failed when the chips were down. I never had anything bad to say then, and never have, about my soldiers. But getting back to today's soldier, I can't think of any better soldier than I see today. I get kind of emotional when I think about the soldiers over the years, but you could look at it statistically if you wanted to, and prove that the soldier today is probably more physically fit, better educated, all of those kind of things, and I think so. I really believe so. What I would say overall is that the American soldier, as a fighting soldier, and again, generic terms for all of those people in the armed forces, the American soldier takes a back seat to no one as far as fighting in his personal courage.
So you would say that we are combat ready?
I would say that the soldiers in this command throughout the Army are combat ready. And the way I assess that again, especially as we are, is not by charts and statistics and so forth, but personal observations and talking to them. Let me tell you a quick little story. I told you I'd deviate. Not long ago, I was sitting around, I'd been on a field exercise, and I was sitting around pondering some things. I had some pretty, quote, weighty things on my mind. You know, all these titles, you know, and all this kind of... And I guess that I was looking a little bit downcast. And a soldier passed by, and he saluted, says, "Hi, General, how are you?" I said, "I'm fine, how are you?" He said, "Well, you don't look so fine." I said, "Well, I guess I'm a little bit down today. I got some problems I'm trying to work out, and things not going too good." He looked at me and he says, "General, don't you worry about it." He says, "Things are going to be all right." And that's the kind of attitude that makes me say what I've just said about them. And that you go out and you talk to soldiers. "How are you? How you getting along?" "I'm fine, General, but let me ask you about this. I need this. Why don't I have that?" You don't get that kind of answer anymore. I get good kind of answers about related to mission accomplishment and that kind of thing.
Sir, if I may steal your generic term.
Yeah.
The soldiers of the Republic of Korea.
Yeah.
When you were over here during the Korean War, we were talking untrained civilian populace that found itself in the midst of war.
Yeah.
In Vietnam, we had the ROC Marines who established a very enviable record. Now you're sitting here as the commander of Combined Forces. How do you assess the improvements that have been made, and how do you evaluate today's ROC soldier?
Well, you've really answered the question, Mike. It was true that during the Korean War there was a lot of untrained Republic of Korea units, didn't have the wherewithal, the equipment, didn't have the leadership training to do what was. So there was some bad times, some very bad times. There's some cases, some isolated cases of magnificent performances by some Korean units, so I wouldn't take that away from them. But I tell you what's happened over the years. They have come along as a fighting force as well as anyone. I'm glad you mentioned the fact that they went to Vietnam. They went to Vietnam, they stood by us. Not only did they stand by us, but they showed what kind of courage they've got, what kind of training they've done, what kind of improvement. They are a potent fighting force, a disciplined force, a force that understands what to do. Now, they've got some limitations too. They need to modernize. They're working on that. They're heavy on light infantry. They need to continue to work on their firepower and mobility, so they got some limitations. But as a professional group, I have great admiration and respect for them.
Sir, there are reports circulating that the 8th Army will relocate to Daejeon or the Daejeon area during the next few years and before the 88 Olympics. Is this true? Are there any plans for an 8th Army move?
Let me answer the question directly first. No, it's not true. The reason I say that, if we were going to move to Daejeon in 88, we would already have to have land, we would already have to have the money in the program and the budget, have to have done all the coordination with the ROC government there. No. Now, I've heard some of the same rumors. I would not sit here, and I told you guys we'd always be honest, I would not sit here and tell you that at some time, somewhere, that couldn't happen. But it is not in the current program. If, for a lot of the reasons that seem very obvious, it would be a time to move at a later time, you'd have to back that off, get it into the program. By the way, I've got a master plan now here it'll far transcend my time in command, but to look at all our facilities and see if we need to consolidate and do some moving as we go about modernizing and so forth. And I think that's a good, honest answer to that question further down.
Yes, sir. General Livsey, two major events are upcoming here in the Republic, the 1986 Asian Games and, of course, the 1988 Olympics, and everyone is very well aware of those. Will those two major events affect the nature of the North Korean threat, do you think, or the readiness steps planned by CFC?
The first part of your question, will that affect the North Korean threat? Boy, I wish I knew the answer to that one. No one knows the answer to that. I think it is, the President here said publicly, I've said publicly, that these are very critical times. I do not know what slant the North Korean leadership would try to take. We see a very interesting time here. We see the South Korean forces continuing to modernize. We see the North Korean forces that have sort of riding a peak of their modernization. It may not be in relative terms like the Soviets, but they put a lot into it. We see those critical events that you've just mentioned coming up. South Korean economy still goes up. Theirs continuing to go down. The Republic of Korea's prestige going up. So you could postulate a scenario that would say if the North Koreans are going to do something, these next few years would be the kind of time to do something militarily that would confound the situation here. Therefore, second part of your question, what's CFC and UNC going to do about that? We're going to continue to be ready to fulfill our mission. We're going to continue to try to be ready and demonstrate to everybody that we're ready to deter aggression. If that fails, we'll do what's right in defense of the Republic.
Okay, sir. A little closer to home to us here, many of the facilities for U.S. forces in Korea are quite old. What are you envisioning in the future for upgrading and renovating these facilities?
Well, that's a relative kind of thing, too. It depends on when you got to Korea. When you say things are, you know, if you were here a long time ago, you say, oh, the progress is phenomenal. I get visitors coming back from just last year and say, I can't believe the progress. You get someone that's just come in the country and say, oh, I got to sleep in a Quonset hut. Well, we are programming very carefully to try to get all of our service men and women out of all those Quonset huts by the year 1990. So, well, that's a long time. I know it's a long time, but that's about a $140 million a year construction program. Now, Major General Jim Ellis, who's my chief of staff on the U.S. side, a very good man. He and I are working this thing very carefully. We're trying to improve all of these facilities. Kind of interesting because you got some competing demands. As you bring in modernized kind of equipment, you need different facilities. So you need dollars for that. We're trying to build new barracks. We're trying to build new rec facilities. We're trying to improve the quality of life in just about every way we can. I guess another thing I'd like to say is that intangible kind of thing that goes with quality of life, sort of an attitude. The positive attitude I find in most of our people here appreciate what's been done, and they make the best of it. They find good things to do. Quality of life goes into every kind of thing. It's a good time for me to get in a plug for the volunteers around here. And I used to always say ladies, and now I say spouses, but the ladies is a good term to use. One time I tried to figure out in a command I had what it would cost me in terms of dollars to pay for all the things that the volunteers do. Quality of life kind of things. No way could we afford it. Us taxpayers and the defense budget couldn't handle it. So to all you volunteers out there and all you ladies, gosh, we thank you, and we thank you from the bottom of our hearts.
Okay, sir.
Sir, if I may jump on the rumor mill again for a moment.
Go ahead.
We keep hearing reports that U.S. Forces Korea is considering an increase in the number of accompanied two-year tours and building more family housing. Are these reports true, and how do you view the accompanied tour as far as military advantages and disadvantages are concerned?
Now, let's take the last part first. Most of us would always say we would like the accompanied tour for a couple of reasons. One, it gives you people in theater longer, stability. One of the big problems you have here, excuse me, is the turnover. You know, we have a lot of turbulence. We have a lot of turbulence in our Army anyway, in our armed services. But we got a lot of turnover. So I'd like to see more stability. So if we could build more family quarters, could bring more people here for 2 and maybe extend some of them to 3 years. That costs money. I can't begin to tell you how expensive real estate is here and just finding it. So it's going to be very, very difficult to construct a lot more quarters here. Now, we do have some quarters that are being built right now on South Post, but those are just replacement quarters for those over in Friendship Building. We do have some quarters on the books for down in the Osan area. We intend to go ahead with that. But to get a lot more quarters over here, Mike, I don't see it right now. Now, as we go down the pipe, we'll keep working at it and trying. I'd like to do everything we can to bring families where our service men and women want to bring families. I don't have time to attack this very difficult problem of non-command sponsored family members here. It's a very tough problem for us because we would like to take care of them as best we can. We have certain rules and regulations that tell us what we can do and what we can't. You know, we've made a little inroads into that with the commissary privileges lately. But that's a kind of a dilemma for us. The more you do, the bigger the problem gets because more people come. And we're continuing to work that. That's a very difficult one for us.
If I may jump back to something a little bit more serious.
That's serious. Okay.
More along the lines of mission orientation.
Yeah.
Throughout the command, we hear about the Army's air-land battle doctrine,
Yeah.
which for me was a brand new term. Could you explain exactly what it is and how does it tie into the combat planning?
If I try to really do that, it'd take more time than we've got here today because I spent about 3 hours yesterday down in Daejeon with the ROC TRADOC talking to their officers about it. The reason it gets difficult, Mike, is that a lot of it is not new. A lot of it is sort of like we used to always have done things. What air-land battle really sort of says in a nutshell is it realizes, or at least from a practical point of view, that there's one battlefield out there, the deep battle, whatever is going, the main battle where people are knocking heads, and the rear area. All are important. All have their place. Don't try to separate them. They all interact. If you look at the battlefield that way, and then you try to synchronize your combat power and put it at the time and place that the commander's choosing, that's the essence of air-land battle. What I try to do when I look at exercises is control the flow of any kind of threat force into the main battle area, at the same time looking at the rear area to make sure that the logistical systems and everything are supporting that. So air-land battle is a synchronization of combat power, the total combat power at the time and place that the commander is choosing. Here on this peninsula, again, one of the great things that we have for us, the flexibility, is our air power. And I don't want to mean anything else because this, you really should say air, land, sea over here. This is a peninsula. And we work very hard on integrating air, land, sea power. Nobody's out there by themselves. The ROC Navy, if we go to any kind of combat situation, we'll have the resources, orchestrated resources of the U.S. Air Force, the ROC-AF. That's the air, land, sea kind of battle. That's what we're talking about. And I'm really sorry I didn't do that justice. That thing takes about 2 hours. Come by the house sometime, we'll talk about it.
Sir, you're known as a commander who emphasizes safety very strongly. In that regard, what message do you have for the troops participating in Team Spirit? And what aspects of safety do you feel need the most attention for USFK personnel?
Well, I really thank you for asking that question. Yeah, I am very concerned and indeed very angry when something happens to our people. Nothing hurts me worse than to see one of our people get maimed or killed. So I try in every way I can. I know that this is a tough business. I know that if you do realistic training, you can't have everything parallel and perpendicular. But I try everywhere I can through the chain of command and through any other system to emphasize safety. One of the things that we always emphasize, is obvious, is aviation safety. Both the U.S. Air Force and the Army Aviation. But most of the time when you look at what really hurts us in terms of fatalities, vehicles again, going back to vehicles. Driving over here is a very tough business, both POVs and military vehicles. So that's the emphasis that I really put on. Right now, cold weather injuries. You know, say, well, you're not going to lose too many people, fatalities. Well, you might. Besides that, I don't want anybody losing the use of his fingers for frostbite or something like that. Or have somebody sleep in an ondol kind of heated place, carbon monoxide poisoning. That's tragic. That's absolutely tragic. So we have an all-out effort, a full court press on safety, and we're going to keep that as long as I'm here. And I would appreciate, you know, when you're doing your TV things and wherever you go, ask those kind of questions of people that you talk to in an interview. I can sort of put out what I can from my headquarters. I got confidence in my commanders. I got awful strong commanders on this peninsula. They're good at every level, in all kind of uniforms. And I got great confidence in them. They're busy people, but that's one thing that they all know from me, that when something happens, I'm going to ask them why it happened and what did you do to prevent it. That's what you have to ask yourself. Every time you have somebody hurt or something like that, you have to say, what could I have done to prevent that?
Sir, we also know that you're very concerned about energy conservation. What message do you have for USFK people?
Well, we sort of booted it, USFK people. You got to help me. We've done well, but we haven't done well enough. Now, the United States of America, they charged armed services for all of us to try to go back and use the same amount or less energy than we used in 1975. This is, yeah, that's right. This is hard with all the new systems that we got coming on, with the new floor space that we got in the new barracks and the new motor booth. But we worked hard, and we have, in fact, brought energy consumption down. We are above our goal. We need an all-out effort. We need our engineers to keep doing things like consolidation of heating units and boilers and all that. But we do need everybody, all of us, to do the little things. You know, turning out lights, turning down thermostats, not idling engines. It goes on and on and on. Things that all of us know about, but sometimes don't have the self-discipline to do. So that's another thing that General Ellis and I and all the commanders are working on, is to try to make everybody aware. When I was in Europe, I was very delighted at the way we went about that in my division. Everybody got the spirit of the thing, and they were very proud of the fact that they did, in fact, save a lot of energy. In fact, one of my communities won $500,000 for their energy conservation effort. Things that they could feed back into those quality of life kind of things we were talking about.
Sir, I've got a two-part question, if I can. 1985 is the year of leadership. You've been a leader since the day you walked into the Army with silver bars and became platoon leader, second lieutenant, infantry.
Gold bars.
Oh, excuse me, gold bars. The two parts, I'd like you to compare today's military leaders, particularly in the junior ranks, with those when you came in 30 years ago, and give me an idea of what you think is the greatest challenge awaiting tomorrow's military leaders.
First of all, let me say that I think the leaders are better today. I really mean that. I had the great privilege of commanding the United States Army's Infantry Center and School as a two-star general. And I watched those young lieutenants, for example, coming out of there, like 77, 79. They were better than we were. They were better technically, tactically, physically. So I think they're better. I watched the non-commissioned officer corps in the Army have some trying times after the Vietnam War. I've watched the non-commissioned officer corps in the United States Army rise and come back. Sergeant Major Larry Hampton that I got here as a Sergeant Major on the Army side. He could tell you something about that. So those non-commissioned officers are excellent. Now let me tell you the old, as far as the Army's concerned, and I don't know, probably happens in the Air Force, everybody says E5. Don't have good quality E5. E5 is a transition rank. It's like being a second lieutenant. Second lieutenant's got to start somewhere. A non-commissioned officer has to start somewhere. He has to learn some things. So we're always going to have inexperienced second lieutenants and inexperienced D5. It's sort of about, you know, it's sort of the nature of the beast. I got great confidence in them. I'm very pleased with our leadership. You had the second part of that question, though, now.
The challenge for you.
Oh, challenges is, I could talk to you about the challenge of technology and the challenge of all of those kinds of things that we talk about. Let me tell you what the challenge always is. You and I may have talked about this before. You're at point A, bad people are at point B, bad people are shooting at point A, you're in charge, you got to go to point B. That's the essence of leadership. When you say go, all go. No time for voting, nothing than that. I guess the big point, Sergeant Adame and I talked about it, not drivership, Mike, leadership. Leadership. Those kind of things that cause people to want to do what's right because they've got confidence in other human beings. That's what I think will be the great challenge for the future. Always the human dimension, as opposed to, we'll master the technology. We'll get that. It's the other thing that I'm interested in.
Sir, it's all downhill from here. One of your trademarks is that stick that you carry. What does that stick represent, sir?
Well, I'm not going to talk to you about the stick. I'll talk to you about just about anything except to say I like it. The stick and I have been together a long time. I'm going to keep it. It just sort of here, I don't know if y'all want to answer, say it's a security blanket or something.
All right, sir. Finally, if you could isolate one single aspect of your multifaceted job from all your other responsibilities, what do you enjoy more than anything else, sir?
Okay, that gives me a chance to sort of sum up. I guess, first of all, I enjoy being here. I enjoy the people. I, just this morning, and as I do every Wednesday morning, had breakfast with Ambassador Dixie Walker. I think we got an awful good team here in terms of we want to do what's right. I think we enjoy being around each other. But the thing that I enjoy most is getting out from behind that desk, of course, and getting out there when I can talk to soldiers, airmen, sailors, Marines, and sort of find out what's going on. I've always been sort of a people person. I've never been a loner. I don't like that. And I like to be with them, and I guess the thing I enjoy most is just that. More than anything else, seeing the confidence that they have and trying to do what's right. And boy, I know I make mistakes. I say a good thing for all of us to do is sort of, you know, when the guy gets up and shaves in the morning, you can look at yourself and say, what am I going to do good for my Army today, Air Force, Navy? What am I going to do good today? And then when you brush your teeth at night, you look at yourself, well, what did I really mess up today, and what can I do better tomorrow? And take my little piece of the action, whatever it is, and make it the very best you can.
Well, it's good to know you're a human, sir.
Well, wait a minute, I got one. Can I say one more thing?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I know that you got to wrap this thing up. This is my sort of closing statement, because I feel so strong about, and I get castigated for it sometimes by my peers, but I feel so strong about what you fellas do, and men and women in our armed services, that I'd like to just tell you how much I love you, and that wherever I go, I'll try to make the American people understand how well you do, and to continue to give you the kind of support that you so very richly deserve. I get a lot of visitors to come here to the Republic of Korea, and you've never let us down. When they go out to see what you're doing, then everything sort of is all right. We may mess up a briefing back in the headquarters or something, but So I guess my greatest kind of message for you as we end this interview, and it's been really good being with you, is to talk to all of you out there, all of you, of all ages, and hope, my most fervent hope for you all is that you will never ever have those violent and terrible winds of war in your face, but that you will always have a very calm and steady breeze of peace at your back.
We'd like to thank our guest, General William J. Livsey, our panel members, Staff Sergeant Ray Adame from KORUS Magazine, and Mr. Mike Mooney from Pacific Stars and Stripes. And thank you for joining us. I'm Specialist Christopher Wheelock for AFKN News.
This has been NEWSMAKER, a public affairs interview program featuring the United Nations Command, U.S. Forces Korea, 8th Army Commander-in-Chief, General William J. Livsey. NEWSMAKER is a presentation of AFKN News.